Are you guys still there? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear
you. Sorry, this is like a comedy of errors as far as internet connection goes.
Hello and welcome to this emergency edition of the 538 Politics Podcast. My name is Galen Druk, and where exactly do we begin? It has been quite the day of split screens between Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, pleading guilty to 8 criminal counts, including campaign finance violations, and then on the other screen, Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, being found guilty on 8 counts of financial crimes. So we're going to talk about what it all means, and here with me are senior politics writer Claire Malone. Hey, Claire.
Hey, Galen.
How's it going?
Good.
And on the phone, we have 538 contributor Amelia Thompson DeVoe. Hey, Amelia.
Hello.
How was your day today?
My day has been fun. I feel like there's been like a kind of dramatic but beautiful theater to the way this has all unfolded, and it's a little hard to believe it all happened by chance.
Flipping back and forth between the courthouse in Virginia and the courthouse in New York. Yes, it was quite dramatic. But anyway, listeners, you are probably familiar with the headlines today, and we really want to key in on what this means for the president and his administration. And we'll go in priority order, and I think that means we start with Michael Cohen, unless anybody has any objections. None? Okay. Amelia, when Michael Cohen admitted to breaking campaign finance law, he said that he did it, quote, at the direction of the candidate, end quote. And the violation he's talking about is the payment to Stormy Daniels. So what is the significance of Michael Cohen naming the candidate for federal office? He didn't say Donald Trump, but we, I think, know that it's Donald Trump. What does that mean for Donald Trump?
It's potentially bad news for Donald Trump. If he knew about the payments, if this is all in fact true, he could be criminally liable as a conspirator in this crime. So it's pretty serious, I would say. I don't think we should be holding our breath for an indictment. There are a lot of questions about whether one can indict a sitting president, and Department of Justice guidelines say that that's not the case, but it is certainly bad news for the president.
Claire, are you holding your breath for an indictment?
Yeah, I think we should clarify here that Robert Mueller doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would go out of the box and sort of change, veer from this DOJ guidance saying that, we can indict a sitting president. I don't think that's something that Mueller is going to do.
I mean, this actually isn't up to Mueller, because the sort of irony of all this is that this is the first charge that has really seemed to directly implicate the president, and it's not actually coming out of the Mueller investigation. It's coming out of the prosecutor's office in the Southern District of New York. And so
the implication being that Mueller's team can then kind of take Cohen and say, please cooperate with us and we'll give you, a good recommendation for your other legal problems, right? Is that kind of the...
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit curious because it seems at this point that Cohen is just pleading guilty to these crimes, to campaign finance violations and other crimes. And he's not agreeing at this point to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence or anything like that, which is something that a lot of people had expected. But there's nothing to stop him from doing that in the future, whether the cooperation is with the prosecutors who have charged him or with the Mueller investigation. So, I mean, what happens next is that Cohen's case proceeds, and we just have to wait and see whether he decides that he does, in fact, want to cooperate either with Mueller or the prosecutors. But yes, Mueller handed off this case, before they even raided Cohen's office. He hasn't been a decision-making authority here, and that should be super clear.
Yeah, so this case is under the purview, if we haven't said it, under the Southern District of New York. Can we talk a little bit, Amelia, about just the connection, though, between, what the benefits would be for Cohen potentially to cooperate with Mueller, like how these two cases could potentially be connected?
Well, I mean, all of this it could all be potentially connected if it turns out that Cohen has information that is helpful to Mueller, whether it's in the obstruction of justice investigation that he's reportedly pursuing, or something having to do with potential collusion between the Trump campaign in 2016 and Russia. I mean, the thing about Michael Cohen is that he has been involved in every part of Trump world. He was working on the campaign. He's been involved in Trump's businesses for a long time. He was working for the president after he became president. So you can imagine that Cohen might have a lot of information that is helpful to the special counsel. And if he provides that, then he could end up, getting an even further reduced sentence. But he has to be willing to provide the information, and then it also has to be useful. And, it's possible one reason he hasn't cooperated is that he just can't provide anything of value to the special counsel right now.
Those tapes aren't good enough.
I mean, what are the legal implications going forward for Trump of Cohen saying that he was directed by a candidate for federal office to, break campaign finance laws?
So, I don't think there are immediate legal implications for anyone except Cohen. The place where I would see something like this playing a role is, it's a little hard to imagine this universe right now, but let's say there were impeachment proceedings. This could certainly be an impeachment charge, but that sort of gets into the political arena. It moves the case forward. This is a situation where when you look back at a special counsel investigation, it's hard to predict which particular event is the one that is sort of the sweater starting to unravel. They all have these little moments. And so if this does continue to move Cohen's case forward and Cohen provides information, or there's sort of more witnesses come forward, there are more targets in the investigation, this could be a turning point. But it's just really hard to know that except in retrospect.
Claire, what about the political implications?
Well, they're impeachment, right? This, that's the kind of thing that's in the air right now with Cohen's allusion to the fact that a federal candidate, aka Donald Trump, directed him to do something illegal. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, that impeachment is a political, not a legal act, basically. And so I would say Trump gets to be in danger if post midterm the Republicans lose the House, or they show poorly in midterm elections and Republicans perhaps start to lose faith, and you start to see, turncoats in the Republican Party saying, all right, let's drop the dead weight. So I kind of think, the impeachment stuff, again, all things turn after November, is a little bit of the mantra, but this is certainly something that the political world will slice and dice up and talk about as far as where it could take the president in impeachment.
I mean, if you watch cable news today, there are people saying this is a turning point, that, this changes everything. The Stormy Daniels campaign finance could be the thing that brings down the president, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, have they convinced either of you that this is really kind of a turning point in Trump's presidency?
Well, I do think it could be an interesting point that could, as Amelia said, lead to other things happening. So, for instance, perhaps in the Stormy Daniels case, Michael Avenatti gets to depose Trump, right? And what's Trump?
What a day!
What would Trump say under oath that might be untrue, right? Like that could later be proven false. I mean, obviously, that's something the president's lawyers are averse to having the president do an interview with Robert Mueller, but also I don't think they'd be particularly happy to have him be deposed in a case having to do with, say, Stormy Daniels and those illegal payments that Michael Cohen was talking about. So I think you can start to imagine scenarios under which this becomes bad for Trump. I mean, Bill Clinton's Monica Lewinsky testimony came for a completely different case, right? It had to do with Whitewater. It didn't have to do with
those investment deals.
Right. So I think it's the idea that it's the long and winding road of special counsel investigations.
I love that, the long and winding road of the special prosecutor investigation. But I mean, that's how it is. I think we have this chart that we put up every time there are more indictments in the Mueller investigation. But these take years and they go in a lot of different directions. And this feels big in a way that a lot of the announcements from the Mueller investigation have not. They haven't been as close to the president. The fact that this is a campaign finance violation means potentially other people on the campaign were implicated. Whenever you implicate more people, that's more potential people who see, potential jail time in their future and want to share what they know. So
I think it's possible that this is a very important moment, but in terms of the scope, tying the president to the commission of a federal crime is a big deal, but this is not a huge crime in the grand scheme of things. I don't want to sound like any.
Yeah, it's not like a Perry Mason moment. It's
it's not sort of, this isn't like a bombshell that changes everything.
All right. So we will leave it there for Michael Cohen, and let's talk about Paul Manafort before we end this emergency podcast. The jury turned in its decision today, which was that he was found guilty on 8 counts, and then 10 counts there was no unanimous decision, so there was basically a mistrial for those 10 charges. How much did this case have to do with the president or his administration, if at all?
Nothing.
Yeah,
this is a financial crimes case,
right? But it is. I mean, so while the Cohen case was Southern District of New York sort of headed up, this one did come from Mueller. Mueller handed off the Cohen case, and this Manafort case is a product of the special counsel's team investigation. When Trump talks about the prosecutorial overreach, the politicization of this investigation, he's kind of saying, the president's supporters might say, listen, okay, Manafort had some money problems, had some, shall we say, creative tax solutions. Yeah. But this doesn't mean that the campaign colluded with Russia. And Mueller's purview is supposed to be whether or not the campaign colluded with Russia. It's also the investigation is allowed to sort of take itself where it takes it, and he's found, criminal wrongdoing by Manafort, and so he's gonna go after it. Manafort will have another trial that will bring up the question of whether or not he was an unregistered foreign agent, which could get interesting. But this one was simply about his spendiness and his inclination to not pay taxes.
Yeah, I mean...
Wait, sorry, hold on. Am I confusing?
Foreign bank accounts and commit bank fraud. And I mean, the kind of extensive criminality that was alleged by prosecutors, you can understand why, just from a kind of straightforward law enforcement perspective, Mueller and his team might run into a guy like Manafort and just really want to send him to prison because it's pretty stunning. But yes, I mean, I think it's really important what you're saying, Claire, about the distance between what Mueller has been investigating related to collusion in the election. This is all before the election. However, it is very important because it, could, in theory, it seems unlikely at this point, but now that Manafort has been found guilty, he could, for example, flip and decide to cooperate with Mueller and provide information about the campaign if he has it.
So understanding that this doesn't directly have to do with Russian influence on the election or any possible, collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, as you mentioned, Claire, the Trump campaign or Trump supporters or Republicans will say, this has to do with Manafort's tax problems. This does not have to do with the stated reason that we have the special counsel. But does getting a conviction from a jury boost his credibility?
I think it's, having a verdict out there sort of proves that Mueller's doing something. There's going to be another trial that more sort of directly relates to the question of foreign interference. The idea that Manafort was sort of on the take from the Russian-backed Ukrainian government. So I think it's good from a PR stance for the Mueller investigation, which has obviously been under a sustained attack from the president and his team, that it is a politicized, quote-unquote, witch hunt. So, yeah, I think Robert Mueller is...
sleeping.
I don't know,
tonight?
Kicking back a fruity soda tonight or whatever he drinks.
He's drink. What was the scotch that Michael Cohen said that he drank?
Oh, it was like 12-year Glenlivet, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a situation where I think, this is a good thing. It's not terribly surprising. Prosecutors had a lot of evidence. It would have been much worse for Mueller than I think it is good for him now if
Manafort had been found not guilty. That would have been really bad for Mueller.
Yeah.
I think
it would have discredited him.
Not. I think it would have given a lot of ammunition to his critics who are saying that he's going on a witch hunt that doesn't have any serious legal basis.
So what happens now with Paul Manafort? I mean, can he end up playing a larger role in the Russia investigation, in your view, Amelia?
He could still decide to cooperate with the Mueller investigation and provide information. He has not yet been sentencing, so prosecutors could try to use the upcoming sentencing and the fact that he's going to have another trial. Besides which, prosecutors actually have to decide at this point whether they want to try to retry the 10 counts that the jury couldn't come to a consensus on. So there are a lot of different points where the prosecutors can go to Manafort and say, are you sure you don't want to provide information to us?
Although we should throw in that the president has been not so subtle about the possibility that he would offer Manafort a pardon. So that I would guess that is part of Manafort's calculation on some level. That possibility.
Yeah, although, I mean, I don't know, Claire, like, how likely do you think it is that Trump really gives Manafort a pardon? That just seems like politically devastating for him.
Yeah, but I really wouldn't I really wouldn't rule it out. I think that it's something that Trump's team would probably advise against, but I don't think that history with Trump has proven that we can discount the fact that he could have something in his mind and make a more impulsive political decision as far as a pardon goes. So I think it's a possibility that's still on the table, though, that needs to sort of be thought of.
Yeah, I guess the way I think about it is, okay, so a pardon's not off the table, but if Manafort is looking, I mean, really at spending the rest of his life in prison, given these charges and given the fact that there's another trial, you can see why now might be the point at which he would want to provide information to the special counsel. On the other hand, he might not have information to provide, and then, there isn't a decision to be made.
Okay, last question. In all of this, does anything that's come out today change your calculus as a Republican running for re-election on November 6th?
Nah, bro. No, I think you can continue to stand behind Donald Trump, and you can still spit the line that it's a witch hunt, that Cohen is a disreputable person who's just trying to drag the president into his trouble, right? Like, I think from my point of view,
same old song,
from where I sit, people in the political universe are going to keep holding the line at least until November, because that's kind of the safe thing to do right now.
Yeah, who's our replacement level Republican? I think it's Pat Toomey.
Yeah.
Amelia, if you're Pat Toomey, can you do an impersonated response?
Oh my gosh, I love to bring out my Pat Toomey impression, guys. This is what I live for. No, I think I can't do a Pat Toomey.
Nail that Pennsylvania patois.
Sorry for deceiving you. I think Claire's totally right, and especially with the Cohen charge, it is minor enough that I think Republicans and Trump supporters can look at that and say, oh, this is just campaign finance rules. We have too many of those anyway. And this is really minor and everyone's making a big deal out of this, but it's really not a big deal.
All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there. Claire, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And Amelia, thank you. I know it's been a crazy day for you. Hopefully it doesn't, this doesn't keep you up through the night or something.
I don't think it will, but thank you for the concern, Galen.
I don't know. Maybe somebody's assigning you something. You got to go work on writing a piece.
Take some melatonin.
I'm just so worried about Michael Cohen, guys.
Hopefully,
is he okay?
We'll leave it there. Clearly, I'm tired. My name is Galen Druk. Tony Chow is in the control room. Thanks for listening, and we will see you soon.